and welcome to the Pig and Whistle Tales from Azeroth. As always, here at the Pig and Whistle Inn in Stormwind, I go for a variety of subjects with regards to World of Warcraft. So grab a bottle or a pint, sit back and enjoy. This episode, we'll be looking over Phase 4 of Season of Discovery, what it entails, essentially what's coming to the game itself. We're going to be looking at the major bits and bobs that are going to be added, changed, all of that stuff. But as always, we will get into the weekly news first. So you have Strunraan, Zakali Elders and Aerostar as your weekly world bosses for the week. Strunraan being located in the Onaran Plains, if I'm not mistaken. Actually, no. I think... No. I'm sticking with it. He's located within Onaran Plains. I could be completely wrong, but I think I'm not. You have Zakali Elders located in Sarlacc Caverns and Aerostar, who is located in Emerald Dream. Zakali Elders and Aberrus are your dreaming raids for this week. This means that any items that you get from this raid or world boss will be converted to a higher item level for this current season. Very simple. That's where you want to get your PvE best loot at the moment. We have Pet Battles and Skirmish as your bonus event for the week. Pet Battles, you simply just get a little bit more XP for your Pet Battles after each fight. And Skirmishes, you get a little bit more honour. I think it's around 50% more honour from doing Skirmishes. Temple of Hot Mogu is your brawl for the week. This is essentially Temple of Hot Mogu, but on steroids. You're essentially juiced up with haste, speed, and a couple other bits and bobs. But essentially, you want to pick up the orbs, get into the middle, and just fight for your life because it is very chaotic and everyone has like 100 plus. I think it's actually more around like 300 plus haste. So everything hits very fast and very hard. So make sure you are, quite hot, as it were, hot to the keyboard. I don't know. I'm going off on a tangent. Make sure you're very hot on the keys when it comes to this brawl. There you go. I got the pun in the end. Tyrannical, Storming and Raging are your mythic affixes for the week. Tyrannical, the boss and the mobs that they spawn have increased health and damage, so make sure that you bring a talent build that can accommodate for them. Storming, these are simple small storms that form around mobs or mainly within melee. You simply want to move away from them, don't get hit, they'll knock you up in the air, do a bit of damage, and be quite annoying if you are a caster getting hit by these. If you're a melee, honestly, I don't think it means much. It just means that the healer will hate you a bit more. And Raging, when the mobs get to 30% and below, they have a 100% damage increase. You want to soothe this, so dispel the enrage effect, kill them quickly, kite them if you're a tank, or pop big defensives. Any one of these will do, but make sure you aren't tanking them and taking too much damage. Again, your healer will not thank you for it. So, let's get started with Season 4. Let's start with the basics. There is a new level cap, which is level 60 now, and this is going up to the maximum of classic leveling levels. This is basically you're finishing your journey, your leveling journey from 50 to 60 in this expansion. You have obviously epic mounts that you will now be able to utilize. Reworked raids, the 20-player version of Molten Core and a 40-player version of Onyxia, and instanced world bosses. This means that you aren't fighting for your entire server against your entire server to get these world bosses. You can simply go into an instanced version of the area that they are and get your guild or your group or whoever you want to do it with, pugs even, and go and fight them, which is really good. That's a very smart change in my opinion. Updated loot. Molten Core items get a revamp and redesigned tier 1 sets. This is for everything, so tank rogues, tank shamans, healing mages, boomkins. You have feral druids that get new tier sets, everything from healing mages to tanking rogues essentially get a new tier set. Class runes have been updated as well. You now have an extra rune slot on your cloak, and you get these things called utility runes. So you can engrave your rings with class agnostic utility runes. We'll be going over that later. There's a new world event, Blackrock Eruption, as well as a new alliance buff, Might of Stormwind. This is the buff that matches the Warchief's Blessing for Orgrimmar. So Horde had the option of an extra world buff. This is primarily why you would play Horde in Classic if you ever wanted to speed run, like super speed run, PvE content. You could have got this as Alliance through mind controlling means, but essentially it just makes it easier for players who want to get the world buff to get it in Stormwind rather than going to Orgrimmar, getting mind controlled, and then, having that buff essentially on you, and you got to leave before you get ganked or killed or anything along them lines. New profession recipes, so you can unlock enhanced reputation crafting recipes. These have been going on since Season of Discovery, essentially, and you can do quests for them. They'll send you out to do multiple long chain quests to get these really lucrative recipes that are a lot of the time best in slot for a lot of people. So these will be very much worth keeping an eye on. You have a new dungeon currency, which is a bit weird. So you have something called Tarnished Undermine Reel to purchase rewards. No one knows what to purchase with them yet, from what I've seen. But essentially you can collect them, stack them up, and you can use these to buy certain things. The tooltip for this is this Lost Isles currency is slowly being phased out of circulation, but it still enjoys a very favourable exchange rate throughout the Eastern Kingdoms and Kalimdor. Very simple. Hopefully you can just exchange this for raw gold, because otherwise there's not really much point in collecting this after a certain amount of time. But I would imagine that these are along the same lines as, the currency that you get from the Blood Moon in Stranglethorn Vale and stuff like that, where you can buy certain items that are along them's lines, essentially. You have new Battleground, obviously. Outtrek Valley is now available. And the PvP updates, the class sets are available at rank 10 and not 14, because rank 14, does not exist anymore in Season of Discovery. So rank 10 is your highest rank that you can possibly achieve. Now, the dungeon cap will allow you to go to zones such as the Plaguelands, Blasted Lands. You can do dungeons like Blackrock Spire, Scholarment, Stratholme, etc. All of these things. The way that the rework for raids is going to happen is as follows. As we reach level 60, we are leaving the level up raids behind, quote unquote, but instead stepping into Vanilla's original raids, but reworked. For Phase 4, Molten Core will be a 20-man raid with revamped loot, redesigned Tier 1 sets, and even a brand new boss, which is really cool. No one knows how to find this boss. No one knows what this boss looks like yet. There is just simply a hidden boss within Molten Core that people need to find. I think that's very cool. It also has been confirmed that there will be several difficulties of the Molten Core raid, possibly increasing fire damage. Blizzard did tell us, don't forget your fire resist gear. You're going to need it. I would imagine this is something along the lines of Sapphiron, where everyone within the raid needed their own frost resist gear. This is everyone within the raid. So mages, warlocks, rogues, absolutely everyone. The tank, however, did not. The tank was the only one in the raid who did not, because they were in the chonkiest of chonk gear, which makes sense because they are the one tanking the boss. I would like to see it. Firelands. That's Cataclysm. Molten Core is it's in the middle of a volcano. It should be really high fire resist gear. You should need it. So honestly, I would love for everyone to go all out with this, and for them to actually have the difficulties require you to use a certain amount of fire resist gear. Otherwise, you will just burn up, essentially. I think that's going to be maybe, I don't know. I think along the lines of you have to have this, otherwise you just simply will not live. It's ever increasing fire damage, and this means that obviously you're going to get a bit less damage, which means the bosses are going to be naturally harder, but you're going to be a bit tankier to them. It can be many different things, essentially. But what it could mean is, I've skipped a little bit there. Onyxia's lair will be adjusted to accommodate 40 or fewer players. You could have killed Onyxia with 3 players back in Classic, by the way. People literally did that. They killed Onyxia with 3 players because it was such a simple... it was a simple raid mechanic, let's face it. And we'll also have its loot updated. We don't know exactly what 40 or fewer means, but it could mean that similarly... oh my god. That similar to world bosses below, Onyxia will be tuned for 20 players while allowing 40 to still enter the instance. This would make the encounter easier, but award the same amount of loot as if you were 20 players going into a raid. As soon as we have clarification on this, obviously it will be updated on Wowhead and stuff like this. And finally, they are making world bosses instance-based. This is Lord Kazakh and Azhagos. And these bosses will be essentially you walk into a zone and the area within them or the area around these bosses are going to be instanced. It's very simple, means that people can't grief the world bosses, means that you get your own, means that everyone can experience it. It's very simple, very good change, very much like it. But essentially that's it for the raids. For the raid lockout though, it's going to be twice weekly. It's a bit weird one. So essentially this means is that you get to raid twice, and the dates that they're doing this will happen on Tuesday morning and Saturday morning. These are when the raids will reset. Simply you get 4 odd days between Tuesday and Saturday to clear the raid. I say 4, kind of 4. And then obviously Saturday to Tuesday, you get the Saturday as a whole, Sunday as a whole, Monday as a whole, so 3 days there. So you get a good amount of time to clear these raids, and this means that there's a lot more activeness in the Season of Discovery because people are farming their consumables more, they're doing the raid more, stuff like that. Ults are definitely more friendly, so guilds might look to do ult runs. So, there's many different options to, keep the game or keep Season of Discovery going here. And this will keep people going until they've get Blackwing Lair done, and then maybe Karazhan Crypts, maybe throw in a Scarlet Monastery raid randomly. There's multiple things that they can do with it, but this will keep people going up until then. Hopefully they just don't take like 10 years to actually release the newer raids that are going to be coming out. So the bosses and their release dates are as follows. Lord Kazakh and Azhagos are going to be released on July 18th, and Molten Core and Oni are going to be released on July 25th. Okay, so a week in between them, so you can get 2 lots. I'm not too sure if Kazakh and Azhagos are weekly though. I would assume that they're going to be bi-weekly, not bi-weekly, twice weekly to get loot. So keep an eye on that. You can maybe kill the world bosses twice before even entering Molten Core for that sweet loot. Now, the rewards for Season of Discovery, the raid rewards are going to be a little bit changed. Obviously, you have the redesigned Tier 1 sets and you have new loot, but we haven't seen most of the loot yet. There's also updates to legendaries and other bits and pieces. So for the legendary, Hand of Ragnaros, you obviously have differences with it that comes in the form of it gives druids some attack power now. It gives everyone 5 damage to whoever strikes you within a melee attack, and it has a different 1 or 2 other different properties that have just been tweaked from Classic to Season of Discovery. Well, Sarah has also been tweaked. Rogues can now use it. Shamans can now use it, I believe. That's come out yesterday, but I can't find anything to fully confirm that yet. But that's essentially what is going to happen. We also have, obviously, a couple of dungeons that you have to conquer when you are leveling. So you have Blackrock Depths, the second half of it, with Therazane and Moira at the end. You have Blackrock Spire, you have Dire Maul, you have Scholarments, you have Stratholme. All of these dungeons are coming within Phase 4 and give you very lucrative loot. So, the rune slots. Now, I'm not going to go through every single rune slot, but essentially you have a Cloak rune slot, and you have runes or ring rune slots. So the cloak runes, I'm going to give you an example here for the druids. So for your cloak, you can get improved swipe, tree of life, and starfall. Swipe, essentially, while in cat form, your swipe ability becomes swipe cat. And while in bear form, your swipe ability strikes up to 7 additional targets. This is good for AoE purposes or tanking. Swipes nearby enemies, inflicting 250% of your weapon damage, and generates 1 combo point for if you're in cat form. Tree of Life, shapeshift into a Tree of Life. While in this form, you have increased healing. Your wild growth healing is increased by 60%. Your heal over time spells cost 20% less. You gain increased spirit, gain increased armor. You cannot be polymorphed. Many different benefits to Tree of Life. And finally, for Boomkins, you get Starfall. So you summon a flurry of stars from over the sky over 10 seconds, striking targets within 30 yards of your location, each dealing a certain amount of damage. And essentially, you can have a maximum of 20 stars, and shapeshifting or mounting cancels the effect and is very, very simple. Now, the runes, the ring runes, are very cool. So I'm going to give you examples of the druid one. So these are to be changed essentially and to be finished off. But essentially you can put anything on these rings. So dagger specialization, which increases your chance to hit with arcane spells by 6%. Now it's really weird, but I would imagine that name gets changed. You have a rune of defense specialization. Defense increased by 25%. It's not cumulative, so it doesn't stack up. Feral combat, your feral skill increases by 5%. Fist weapon, your fist weapons increase by 5%. Mace specialization, skill with two-handed mace is increased by 5%. Nature specialization, chance to hit with nature spells increased by 6%. And pole/polearm weaponization increases your skill with staves and polearms by 5. Very simple. And, honestly, these are really good. I like these things because it allows you to change your gear up a bit. You don't have to be hit capped because, suddenly I've lost my, hit cap. I can throw on my nature specialization and get my hit cap back with the 6% increase from spells. Very good, very simple. That's kind of the main things about Season of Discovery. I'll go into them a bit more next week. There's going to be a few more bits and bobs so that I can, gather together all the information for stuff like the new world event, which is the Blackrock Eruption. Hopefully more stuff has come out about that. But sorry, this is a short one. Again, I'm still trying to get bits and bobs together for these episodes, mainly because I had these episodes ready to go, but my current setup is somewhere in a completely different location. My PC has had a blue screen recently and it has not recovered. I've tried to fix it for weeks, it has not recovered, so that's kind of why these are a bit different, and I might sound a bit different in your headset, in your ears. So I'm still trying to tweak the sound settings and stuff and get it all perfect for you guys. But it should be back to normal within the next couple of weeks. You got to give me time to fix it and stuff. But I'm sorry for any inconvenience this caused. This is where I'll end this episode. Do check out all of the socials down below. Constant stuff happening over there. If you check the description at the very top, there's a place that you can click to leave any sort of feedback. Criticism, praises, anything that you might want to hear about in World of Warcraft, please drop it in there and I'll be more than happy to go over them and see what I can do in the future with it. But thank you all very much once again, and go with Valor, friend. Goodbye all.